Hello everyone, this is Shannon from That's So Po, and today I am bringing you my TBR for July, which is Hugo Finalists. So if you're not aware, my husband and I are going to be going to Dublin for Worldcon this summer, and Worldcon is a convention for science fiction and fantasy, and it gives out the Hugo Awards. So when you go to Worldcon, you get to vote for the Hugo Awards. So there's a couple of categories that we want to vote in. We want to vote in the short story, novelette, novella, and novel categories. We have already read all of the short stories and novelettes, and we have done discussion videos kind of talking about what we thought about each of those and how we sort of want to vote. So if you want to check those out, I will link them below. But we still have quite a few books left to read in order to be able to vote in those categories. So this month I wanted to devote to catching up on the books that I need to read in order to vote in those categories, as well as reading a couple of the other things that have been nominated for Hugos this year that Sush has gotten me as gifts to read. First, I'll talk about the novellas that I need to read in order to complete all of the books in that category. I have already read 4 of the 6 novellas that are nominated for that category for the Hugos this year, but I have 2 left. The first of these is Gods, Monsters, and the Lucky Peach by Kelly Robson. This is a far future sci-fi set on Earth where Earth has not really had a great time of it. There have been a lot of ecological disasters and probably just, people not taking good care of the Earth, which has made it uninhabitable on the surface for humans, so they have gone underground. However, they are now emerging and trying to clean things up, and there seems to also be an aspect of time travel in this book, so I'm not entirely sure what to expect of it, but Rachel at Kalanadi, who I will link below, has said really positive things about this, so I'm looking forward to it. The other novella that I need to read is The Tea Master and the Detective by Aliette de Bodard. And this sounds pretty fascinating. It is sort of a Sherlock Holmes retelling, reimagining, set in space with a tea master who I believe is Holmes and a sentient spaceship who is, I guess, Watson. And this is set in this sort of Vietnamese mythology-inspired future sci-fi. So it sounds like it's gonna be a really cool take on Sherlock Holmes, which I'm a fan of to begin with. So I'm looking forward to this. Now to move on to the novels. The first novel that I want to read for the Hugos is Record of a Spaceborn Few by Becky Chambers. This is part of the Wayfarers series, and I had read the first and second book in the Wayfarers series and really enjoyed them last month. This book I started, but then I got promptly distracted by other books that I wanted to read, so I haven't quite finished it, but I will come back to it. At least I have a head start and finish it. I think that this series has a lot of really interesting themes and great representation, great diversity, so I'm looking forward to finishing this book. The next 2 novels that I want to read are Raven Strategem and Revenant Gun by Yoon Ha Lee. These are books 2 and 3 in the Machineries of Empire series, which I started last month and really loved the beginning of. Book 1, which was 9 Puck's Gambit, I absolutely loved. I thought it was really fantastic. It's a military science fiction book where this universe that has been created relies a lot on religion and belief systems, and so there's many different issues explored of conformity and belonging, as well as just having great military strategy and adventure. So I love the first book. I did start Raven Strategem. I got about halfway through, but I was really sick, and so I don't even remember what I read, so I might have to go back and start that book again. But I'm very much looking forward to reading these 2. Only the third one is eligible for a Hugo this year, but I'm not going to skip the second one in order to get to the third. And the last book that I need to read in the novel category is Space Opera by Catherynne and Valente. So I've heard a lot of mixed things about this, but I'm hoping that it'll turn out good. It is a sci-fi, but very much a sci-fi in the vein of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where it's a little bit absurd. In this, there is a sort of space Eurovision competition, and in order for Earth to not be destroyed, it needs to compete in this competition, so it sends some singers, and it needs to not come last, kind of to prove its worth through the singing competition. So it sounds like this is supposed to be very funny, but always with funny things, if things go a little too far, sometimes that's not so great for me, so we'll see what I think of it when I read it. Now moving on to books that are not necessarily in the categories that I'm going to vote for, but that are nominated for Hugos and are books that my husband Sush got me as gifts because we like to get each other books as gifts, and he knew that since we're going to Worldcon, these might be good things to read. The first of these is Abbott by Saladin, Ahmed, Sami, Kivela, Jason Wordie, and Jim Campbell. So this is a graphic novel which is set in sort of this dark supernatural version of the 1970s Chicago. And it seems like the story focuses a lot on corruption and police issues and social injustice. So it sounds like maybe it'll have some pretty cool themes, although I have heard some slightly mixed reviews of it. Next is Black Panther, Long Live the King by Nnedi Okorafor, Aaron Covington, Andre Lima, Araujo, Mario del Pennino, and Tara Ford. Lots of people involved in making this. So this is a reboot of the Black Panther series, and this will actually be my first superhero comic that I've ever read, I think. So that'll be a really interesting thing. I have seen the movie and I liked it quite a lot, so I'm hoping this will be good too. Next is The Electric State by Simon Stålenhag, and this is not actually, I think, a Hugo finalist. It was something that perhaps was nominated but didn't make it onto the shortlist. However, Sush saw it and thought that I would really like it, and just flipping through, I think that the artwork looks fantastic. It's basically a dystopian future where somebody goes on a road trip throughout the US, and there's been this kind of high advancements in technology that have then collapsed. So it's kind of this decay of technology type of feel to it, as well as a bit of Americana, I think. And the artwork looks fantastic, and it seems like there are these beautiful full-page paintings that next to them have some sort of prose and story going along with it. So even though it's not something that's actually eligible for voting on, it just looks fantastic, and I'm very excited to read it. And lastly is The Books of Earthsea, the complete illustrated edition by Ursula K. Le Guin and Charles Vess. So this is actually not one book, it is 5 books plus some short stories. It is an enormous volume, and it basically is just an illustrated version of the Earthsea series. So I have never actually read the Earthsea series. I'm really interested in reading it. I don't know that I will manage to read this entire book by the end of July, but I would like to at least make inroads on it because it looks really good. So those are the books that I am planning to read in order to vote in the Hugo Awards at the end of July. If anybody else is voting for the Hugos, and if you guys are reading some of these or you have other ones yet to read, please let me know down below.